Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first Elementary Common Core Literacy Initiative presentation. My name is Allie Parkinson, and I will be visiting with you for about a half hour today, along with two other people. Becky Trapnell's with me and Kim Sandy. And together, we would like to provide you with some updates that are relevant to our Elementary Literacy Committee. They have been working very hard this past year and felt that it would be important that we give you all an update on the great things that are happening with literacy in our district. This Google Plus Hangout is our very first attempt to deliver this information to you, and there's many ways we can use Google Hangout to deliver information. For today's purpose, our presentation will be a presentation where we will present to you and walk you through these slides. For future presentations, we hope to use an interactive method as well, where you'll get to be along with us on the screen and offer your input and your suggestions. So for today, you will watch the slides and we'll walk you through some great things that are happening in our district. So let's begin. One of the things that our Elementary Literacy Committee spent the last year doing was really fine-tuning what we believe in our district and where we're going in our district with literacy. And so we had many conversations, we did some reading, centering around the idea of Common Core and what do we as a district want to do with that. So we know that everything that we do with our literacy initiatives moving forward will be all centered around the Common Core standards. We also know in our district that writing is a need in the Grand Forks Public Schools. And so we have spent the last few months really examining some potential writing resources that our district will potentially adopt. And we're going to talk further about that later on in today's presentation. We also know that we have a need for alignment in our district and across all grades and all schools, so that regardless if you are a second grade student in Lewis and Clark, Kelly, West, or Winship, that students get the same literacy instruction. And that's something that's important to our committee. We know that our literacy mission will guide everything that we do, and our district actually has a K-12 literacy statement. But first, I want to share with you, just to remind everybody about our Grand Forks mission. And the Grand Forks mission really focuses on all learners developing their maximum potential. When we take a moment to look at our K-12 literacy mission statement, there are some similarities where we talk about all learners developing their maximum potential. And so when you look at our literacy statement, it says, because people construct meaning through language, we believe that literacy, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, is central to active learning in all classrooms. All students need opportunities across subject areas to actively engage in written and spoken dialogue about relevant content. It is through these opportunities that students prepare for and contribute to a world that values both creativity and critical thought.
You know what's cool about this, Allie, is this was developed by the K-12 Literacy Committee, and it was before Common Core. But oh my gosh, speaking, writing, reading, and listening, all of those are so Common Core-ish. It's nice to see that we were headed in the right direction.
So we have lots of literacy work that's in progress, and again, looking at how do we meet the needs of all of the students in our schools. So this school year, we will be providing all teachers with some professional development using Gretchen Iwaki's writing book as a resource for us to get started with implementing Common Core writing standards. We will be, our committee rather, hopes to outline expectations, what should be tight in our district when teaching the Common Core literacy standards. We will be piloting writing curriculum in classrooms in every school. Each of our buildings have literacy representatives on our committee, and so that will be beginning at the beginning of our school year. And we will be providing all teachers with some professional development on an integrated workshop structure. And so as you can see from this, we have some pieces that will be happening in classrooms. There's some big picture professional development opportunities, and then there's some pilot work that will be going on in specific classrooms. So how did we come to these initiatives with the Elementary Literacy Committee? As I said, we spent some time this past year researching research-based resources such as the Pathway to Common Core, looking at that as a guide to provide us with some direction. And if you're familiar with this resource, you'll know that Lucy really gives some nice direction into what's first and where you begin and how you proceed. And so Lucy would say, if you read that book, that where you start is by implementing a cross-curricular K-12 writing workshop curriculum. And so we will be beginning with some writing implementation this year, knowing that that is best practice of where to begin. Lucy would say that providing students with lots of just right high interest texts and giving them time to read them is a high priority. And in our schools, our teachers do just that. We all know the value of volume reading. That is a conversation that we've had in past years, and one that is a high priority in our classrooms. We've been talking also in the past about argument, and Lucy would say that that is a priority in your schools, and informational writing. That is also something that just informational text has certainly been a high priority when we review the Common Core standards. Lucy would say we focus on higher order comprehension instruction. When we talk about text complexity, as we have in past professional development sessions, that is what she's referring to. And then Lucy would suggest that we look at cross-curricular analytical nonfiction reading, again, an extension of the work that our instructional coaches have done with teachers specifically in the area of close reading. And then lastly, Lucy would suggest that we look at assessments, and that is a work in progress as we try to get some of these other initiatives off the ground in our district.
Well, that's certainly a full slate. What I think about is how, in her last statement, she really is ensuring that we're going to close that gap between grade 12 and college and career readiness. We're going to keep the teaching tight, and we're going to make sure that we're covering all the text types and the demand that we know career readiness and college readiness is asking us to do. I like the point about argument, which is central. You know, can kids read critically? Can they make a claim? Can they support it? Can they write it? And can they pull it from the reading? This is all very central to Common Core.
And I really like the way Lucy Calkins ends this book, and I think that this quote nicely sums up the path that our Elementary Literacy Committee is on. Lucy says, for the process of figuring out how to implement the Common Core standards will itself be the pathway. When teachers pull together to study student work, to study their own teaching, to study what does and does not lead to increasing achievement, and what does and does not support trajectories of progress, that process of studying and talking and reading and teaching and questioning and teaching again will in fact be the pathway to implementing Common Core state standards. And this process of studying and talking and reading and teaching, I feel like that has been the path that our Elementary Literacy Committee has begun this past year in our learning communities as we have these honest conversations about where we are at and where we're going. And really this PLC work, if you will, is the work that we as teachers in all buildings it is just so important that we honor that at our buildings as well, as we find our pathway and implementing best practice in literacy.
You know, across the nation, Pathways to Common Core has been a very recommended text to help districts look at Common Core, and then there are uniquenesses that each district has to deal with. Some districts with greater poverty, every district is going to have its own issues that they have to navigate in eventually reaching Common Core. But the thing that I like about her, she also simplifies Common Core into almost a 3-to-1. She says Common Core is all about increased proficiency, closing that gap between grade 12 and college or career readiness, increased complexity, which really is synonymous with rigor. Are our kids thinking deep enough? Are they analyzing? Are they evaluating? Rigor is a hallmark, actually, of Common Core state standards. And then are they able to do all of this with greater independence than we've had in the past? So these are the 3 increased areas in Common Core. She says if you're thinking about 2 areas that stick out in Common Core, it would be the 2 C's. Higher levels of comprehension and higher levels of composition. This is why last year we decided as a department to focus on, even as a district, to focus on our reading standards, because they're all about increased comprehension, excuse me. This year we're looking at the 2nd C, which is increased composition. So at the same time that we know the demand for writing is greater with Common Core, we also listen to our district teachers that are saying this is one of the most inconsistent areas in our curriculum. So the writing focus this year is an important uniqueness that we want to address in Grand Forks schools. She says if in this 3-to-1, if we had to say what is the one thing that we would say about Common Core, it's all about a thinking curriculum. And so this is an exciting time. All of us, certainly at the heart of our teaching, want our classrooms to be about a thinking curriculum.
So we have lots of literacy work that is in progress, and some of it that will involve you right away here at the beginning of the school year. One of the exciting pieces of that we were able to do this summer was prepare some Common Core writing professional development for all teachers. And our professional development is based on the Common Core writing book by Gretchen Iwaki. We were able to purchase a book for every teacher in every elementary school so that this book would provide you as a resource for teaching to the writing standards. And this book will be used this school year for all classroom teachers in concert while literacy committee members pilot various writing curriculums so that we have something in place to ensure that we're teaching to the Common Core standards while we are looking at other curriculum resources as well. So why did we choose Gretchen Iwaki's writing book?
Because it's hot nationally. A lot of people before us have been looking for resources on Common Core writing standards. It is so teacher friendly. I mean, these are some of the favorite parts of it that teachers in the district already last year have been trying this in their classroom. The learning progressions are very clear. Expectations are written in kid-friendly languages. You are going to see an exact progression of how you are going to be implementing this. Your anchor standards are going to be very clear. The assessment, the progress monitoring, the mini lesson resources and forums are, teachers comment all the time about how helpful and how ready to go they are to implement in their classroom tomorrow.
So Our professional development plan for this book will begin shortly with you and will take us through the entire school year as we dig into this book. The first piece that you will have the opportunity to view is looking at some video links that we have prepared that are really testimonials that Grand Forks teachers who currently use this book as a resource have filmed and have allowed us to kind of get their feedback, if you will, on how this book could be best used and some tips for us to get started. So if you're familiar with the flipped classroom concept, we'd like you to view these video links before we even provide you with the book. We want to give you kind of dangle a carrot, if you will, do some research online to see what this book is, and then your book will be arriving to you in the next week. So a little bit later in the presentation, I'll show you where those links are now found. And so I ask that you take a few minutes to view these links and get you familiar with this book if you're not already familiar with it. Each month, we will also be having district collaboration via this Google Hangout format. And what we want to do is sort of replace a traditional grade level meeting concept and obviously take advantage of some great technology resources that we have and use this format as an interactive way for us to discuss specific parts of this book each month. And so in a little bit I'll show you a slide on how those months will look based on sections of this book. We also will have ongoing professional development part of your school's PLC. We'll be giving you some direction in hopes that this becomes some discussion, some work that you do at your building level as well. And then we will have other technology tools such as Edmodo that will help us to link our conversations, to promote us to share and ask questions as we're all using documents from this book and using this book as a resource.
And to share across grade levels, right across the district.
So as we look at this timeline, you'll see that in September, this is an opportunity for you to get familiar with this resource by looking at those video links that we provided. And then in October, we'll dig right into Standard 3 narrative text type. And then each month, we will go through focusing on specific Common Core standards.
The great thing about this is it's small chunks. You have a month to digest each of those pieces, but by the end of the year, you will know inside and outside the 10 anchor standards for writing Common Core.
So your first steps to get started with this resource, as I said, you'll be looking at those web links. But first, we as a committee have ordered quite a number of these books. We have them in the warehouse at ISC. They are ready for Paulette to send out, but we need to know who needs the book. And so sometime throughout this meeting today, as you're watching this, I'm going to ask that principals circulate a spreadsheet that they have been given, and you sign up whether you have this book or don't have this book and your position. And what we'll do from there when we receive that, Paulette will put your name on your book, it'll be checked out to you, and you will be all set to go for the year. And this will help us to be efficient to make sure we get everyone a book that needs one. And when you, in the meantime, as you're waiting for this, as I said, you can watch the Iwaki video segments that are on our new literacy webpage, and you will be receiving Prism hours for this. And so your first hour you will receive by watching the video links on our new literacy website. And there's a form on there that you have to click, and then that really solidifies that you did your first hour, and that will go into my learning plan for you. So that will be hour 1 of a total of 15 hours that you'll be given for this professional development throughout the school year. All right, the other piece that our elementary literacy committee has had great discussion about this past school year is identifying literacy expectations for all teachers. And what we did as a committee is we researched what other districts look like and how they go about identifying their literacy expectations, all in effort to align Tier 1 district literacy expectations. And so what we did was we created a resource that kind of encompasses all of our expectations to date. And I want to walk you through the process of some of the things that our committee members have done this past year. We reviewed some different district handbooks. And this is an example of a Wisconsin school district where they have outlined, kind of in a paper manual type format, what it is that they expect. And you can see from this snapshot their table of contents. It is extremely in-depth, and it is very specific, ranging from outlining what the literacy structure should be in their schools, what their reading instruction with read-alouds and shared reading, and so on, and what that should look like in their schools. So this was one example of a handbook format, and this is a close-up look at one of their pages in their handbook that just outlines their expectations for implementing a workshop approach in their schools. And so as you can see from this, it's very, very specific and tight, really. It gives their district kind of a cohesiveness of what is expected in every classroom.
I love the gradual release here with the mini lessons, the small group, independent. This is nicely laid out.
And then another example of a framework that we looked at is another Wisconsin school, actually, and their literacy expectations were posted more in electronic format on their website. And when you look at it, you could drill down specifically what was expected in shared reading for their district, what was expected for interactive writing, what was expected with mini lessons, and it was just extremely specific. And so this format led our committee to looking at a more electronic version of a handbook, if you will, because we know that in literacy we are continually growing, changing, adding, improving, reflecting, and so we knew that we didn't want a permanent manual, if you will, that would be all-encompassing, the first time we roll out expectations.
You know what it really would be fun is for you at your leisure to go on this Fort Atkins site. It'll give you a preview of the level that literacy is at across the country.
So what we have done in the Grand Forks Public Schools, with the help of Dar Johnson leading the way, we've created an elementary literacy hub, we're calling it. And how that title came about, we in conversation were talking about, we want a place where it's the hub of all things literacy, all the things that we are doing, and not thinking of this as just a website with links, but it really is the central place that you will go moving forward with literacy expectations and literacy initiatives that we are having, that are happening in our district. So as you can see from the screenshot, we have our literacy mission statement posted there, and we've begun to add some content, and we've also begun to add the links of everything we do with the Milwaukee Common Core Writing Book. So this is a work in progress, but is now live, ready under departments in our under curriculum and departments, and then you drill down to literacy, and you'll see this there for you to visit.
So, Allie, are you saying that, I mean, some of these are hard copies and whatnot, but will even the live chats like we're doing right now, these will be archived on here?
Everything we do will be linked now via the links category or the content category moving forward.
This is so great. That, you know, it gives the opportunity 24/7. You can go back, and for some of us, it's like, what did they say again in that presentation? So it's always going to be available for your clarity and understanding.
And at your fingertips.
Yeah, great.
One of the resources you will see right away on our Literacy Hub is our district's new I CAN statements. They are posted there by grade level, ready for you to use this school year. And I know for veteran teachers in our district. We had our old ICANN statements, and this was a resource that was just really valuable to help us focus in on specific standards. And so this is here in front of you is an example of a third grade, what they look like. But you can go to our Literacy Hub, download your grades ICANN statements, and they are ready for you to go.
And they help with making your lesson goals, and you can post those.
The other piece that you'll see on our Literacy Hub is a listing of high-frequency word lists. This past year, our committee spent a lot of time talking about the many word lists that teachers, primarily in grades K through 2, use, and how we have varying different lists in our district. And so what we'd like to move towards is the expectation that we use the list posted on this site to draw from, and they are the Fontes and Pinnell high-frequency word lists. There are many, there's hundreds. And how we'd like you to use this resource is as a tool for growth, starting with the ones that your students know, and then as their growth or their pacing allows, you continue to use this, adding to their bank of high-frequency words in grades K through 2. And so this is something we'd like to make the switch to, so that we don't have all the different word lists going on. If we could all draw from this word list this school year, that would be a step in the right direction for us to become more aligned. One thing that we are continuing to work on is sort of the cut scores, if you will, with these word lists, and what would be the benchmark for kindergarten, what would be the benchmark minimum for a first grader. And I will tell you that that's still a work in progress, but with that even happening and those conversations still occurring, we wanted to draw your attention to the word list that's there, so we can at least start with those words. Your input in what's appropriate as we implement these words throughout the school year would be great feedback for our committee as we look at some pacing guides or some benchmarking, if you will, with these high-frequency words. The other piece that you'll see there is everything we do with Fontes and Pinnell is now listed there, all of the directions and any template you use, the calendar for when we do Fontes and Pinnell, everything Fontes and Pinnell is now listed under its own link there. So that is a great go-to place for you. Our assessment calendars there. We have examples of sample daily schedules. This was a wonderful conversation we had at New Teacher Workshop with new teachers on how to design your day and how does it all fit together. And so the examples that were shared with new teachers were also posted under our Literacy Hub, and are really some great examples of how it can all integrate, especially with everyone's plate being so full. There's some great models for you to check out. We have some pieces in development. We've talked about volume reading in past years. We want to bring that information to our site and put that on there. We've talked about close reading. We want to bring that information and update that and put that on there. All of the Iwaki PD and the archived videos, as I said, will also be on our Literacy Hub.
So the important thing is this is a continually developing hub. So don't look just once at like the high frequency words or whatever. As things are decided, and things are added, you're going to want to check this, and
it's now your go-to literacy place.
Yeah.
So what's coming? These are some big ideas, some big initiatives that our committee is continuing to add. We have a GFPS teacher tube in the works where we hope to post examples of just the great things that teachers are doing in their classrooms. And so that account has been established, and we just want to link everything together. So that is in process. Speaking and listening, I'll let Becky, if you want to expand a little bit on that, of what's coming.
Well, last year we focused on reading, the Common Core reading standards, and knowing the what with that. Speaking and listening is a huge central part of the Common Core. We're going to be going into that in September across the district, and then we know our literacy committee is working on writing across the district and specifically identifying a curriculum that we'll pilot and want to roll out next year. The workshop approach is going to be maybe more clearly defined or redefined as it varies from person to person, but we're going to be looking at, when we think back to our philosophy statement that Allie read for literacy across our district, when we talk about all students meeting their potential, maximum potential, really what that equals is a workshop approach. I think we get nervous when we're thinking about all kids, meeting their potential, and we know that word in the business is called differentiation, and that tends to be a word that is scary, but really that's what the workshop approach is. So we're familiar with the workshop approach, and we're going to work toward a very careful definition. You see other districts have done that in their handbooks, and work toward consistency of workshop in reading and in writing, and really it goes across every discipline. You use it in content areas, in social studies, in science. It is the way that we ensure all kids meet their maximum potential.
And then we hope to highlight the resources that are available, readily available in our district. I think about our guided reading libraries, our kit rooms, our leveled libraries of books. Those are all great resources that we know that teachers are using in their classrooms. And then lastly, one piece that's in progress is looking at some learning progressions. And I'm going to show you an example of something that is in the beginning stages. And I want to thank Kathleen Peterson for her work with sharing some of these documents. We in our district would like something this succinct, where it outlines the anchor standard, the Common Core standard, a rubric of some sort, maybe of a 1, 2, 3, 4. It aligns the I can statements that goes with that standard, and then it gives some clarification as to what this all means. And so we hope to develop these, and so that our district has kind of a progression of what is expected, and then what's before and what's coming after when students know something. And so the workshop structure. This is something that will be a big emphasis this school year, something that we will devote some February professional development days to, and something, as Becky alluded to, is our district has spoke about it in the past, and classroom teachers are really doing varying pieces of this in their classrooms.
Mm-hmm. I think, Allie, what's different about this is when we look at the visual here, it says an integrated framework. We're familiar with workshop, but the integrated framework incorporates Common Core state standards. And in looking at the 4 bubbles, reading workshop, writing workshop, content workshop, those we're familiar with, but the language workshop is new. And what it really refers to, when we think back to our training last year about complex text, Common Core says somewhere in our curriculum we have to have stretch text. Kids have to be exposed to text that is complex, that is above their head, where the teacher is modeling the thinking with complex text. That's the language workshop. The reading workshop is where we are instructing kids at their grade level standards. So we know with Common Core that all kids have to be exposed to their grade level standards. So it would be looking at the grade 3, for example, standards as it relates to your big anchor standards. Writing workshop is going to correlate to reading workshop. So if in reading workshop you happen to be working on narrative text type, then in writing workshop you're going to be helping students to develop the narrative text type at their grade level. The content workshop is your science and social studies. And so, for example, if you're working on a narrative, and that's the theme that kind of holds all this together. Maybe in social studies you're working on communities, and you might be reading realistic fiction story about a fireman at the San Francisco fires, or whatever. But these all intersect in some way, and yet they're all different in as well. The very bottom, however, though, is very, very critical, where it says about scaffolding. I think in No Child Left Behind, what we tended to do when students were experiencing difficulty is we just reduce the rigor of the task so that they be successful. Common Core is not doing that at all. They're saying keep that rigor up there and figure out how you can provide questions, prompts, and cues to help that student rise to the level that you're teaching at. So scaffolding kind of supports the whole structure.
And the instructional framework that drives our workshops is the gradual release of responsibility. And most of us are very familiar with the 3-tier model over here that back in 1983 with Pearson and
Johnson.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So now we're looking at a little bit more detailed model of gradual release of responsibility, with the collaborative learning now taking its rightful place in here. And I'll show you a slide that the K1 teachers are somewhat familiar with. We start over here with the high teacher responsibility with our focus lesson, where we model and set our purpose and get our motivation. And in the yellow, we just put some examples of how that might look, either in the K1 classroom or really any elementary classroom. And then as we progress into the guided instruction, it's scaffolded, of course, and we've got more examples here of how that actually looks in the classroom. Then we want to start increasing the student responsibility over here with that piece that was often missing in our original gradual release of responsibility model, which is the collaborative learning. When we make sure children have the opportunity to use academic talk, and this would be our time where they're discussing together using that academic language.
Problem solving,
mm-hmm. Working together, absolutely. And then we often went too fast and we went right down here to transfer, but we also have to make sure it's happening. Independent reading or writing, teacher conferencing, we're checking for transfer. And although this has specific literacy examples, we know that the gradual release of responsibility model goes across the curriculum, across content areas, and can be applied to any activity in the classroom, any lesson.
We want to update you on is just some more specifics about the writing curriculum, the writing that we're doing, piloting writing resources. We're looking at 3 writing resources this school year: benchmark literacy, explorations in nonfiction writing, and writing Common Core. And I listed for you the other districts that are looking or have implemented these curriculums, because it's important that you know that we're really being thorough in looking at what other districts in our surrounding areas are implementing currently. For example, Steve Dunn, we had some committee members visit West Fargo's professional development. He was doing some training with them last week, and so we had a team of committee members go and see Steve Dunn in action to get a feel for what does this writing curriculum look like. Our teachers, our committee members met with a benchmark literacy person, representative this past week, and she did some professional development on, what does this all entail, and looking at setting up a writer's workshop. And so these are pieces that are ongoing with our committee members, and we hope to make a recommendation within the next, probably by January, as we kind of walk through each of these resources to see what's the best fit for all of our teachers.
Allie, one of the things that these reps from these different companies comment on in Grand Forks Public Schools, our committee has 30-some people. It goes across special ed, reading recovery, librarians. It's basically classroom teachers, but they really do comment on our thorough approach to wanting all perspectives at that table as we evaluate each of these different resources.
So our committee member is looking at all the parts of this. We're making sure that it aligns with the workshop, integrated workshop structure that we spoke about and our WACI Common Core expectations. And then, of course, there's a criteria that we continue to ask ourselves when determining what is the best resource that we should be proceeding with. As for ongoing work, our committee is very busy. They continue to plan our WACI PD. They're, as I said, working on the writing pilot. They are taking on some classroom initiatives to model best practices in their classrooms. We are examining those pacing guides. We're adding new literacy expectations to our literacy hub. And then eventually, we are hoping to add the standard-based report card conversation to our conversations as well. We're also looking at what resources does our district need. These are just a few potential conversation strands that we've talked about. You know, what mentor texts make sense for our classrooms? Are there other resources that support targeted instruction? Are there resources in the nonfiction category that really aligns with Common Core expectations? And then we know with volume, just adding books to classroom libraries, we know that that is a huge priority to ensure that every classroom has a large variety of resources readily available at kids' fingertips in their classrooms.
So kids really can be doing the amount of volume reading that they need to be doing.
So our committee, as Becky referenced, is very large. We have classroom teachers represented from every elementary school and every grade, and we have a large variety of specialists ranging from reading specialists to media specialists to tech partners, etc. And I just want to really acknowledge the work that this committee has done this past year and the work that is yet to come. It is a really huge time commitment, and these people work really hard to represent everyone, represent our district well, very thoughtful in what it is that teachers need in our district. And so I just greatly appreciate their contributions and are just a really wonderful think tank that allows us to make some good decisions and get teachers what they need. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, just to kind of summarize all that we've talked about in today, our goal as a district is to really work towards an alignment. How do we ensure alignment from building to building, classroom to classroom? And I always use the analogy of Starbucks. If you went to a Starbucks in Washington or if you went to a Starbucks in Minneapolis, it doesn't matter what state or city, you get the same vanilla latte. And that's structure and alignment. And I recognize that we're not a coffee shop in our district, but we have some work to do with becoming more tighter and aligned from classroom to classroom and building to building. So that's an initiative that we hope to build upon.
And we know, we certainly have come from a history of different resources in different buildings, and we hear teachers all the time really asking for the same resources, the same structure, so that we're all moving forward together.
We know that the Common Core standards are our guiding resource, and you know the whole goal behind that is that our students are proficient, and along with that is us making sure that our students are making the expected growth. As we know, growth is a big conversation for us as a district to really dig into this year. We've talked benchmark and proficiency for a number of years, and that has been great conversation, has served us well. But we're now looking at, in addition to those pieces, the growth and making sure that truly every child is making growth.
Mm-hmm. and meeting their maximum potential, going full circle back to our mission statement.
So my lasting thoughts for you all really stem from a Twitter chat on Fontes Pinnell last night, if any of you were following that. They had some great, thoughtful pieces to ponder. And I found myself really thinking about our district. And one of their questions was, does your school have a common understanding and goals around literacy instruction? And so I just encourage you as a building and as grade level teams to just really begin having that conversation. Does your school have a common understanding and goals around literacy instruction? How do we deliver and ensure that kids are getting what they need? And then the last point that resonated with me is they said, we believe that all students need to live a literate life in school. Real books, real thinking, real talking, real writing. And certainly if you go back to the Lucy conversations that we started with in this presentation, that is really what she says as well.
And, you know, in thinking that, I mean, sometimes I think, oh, we have all these requirements that we have to do as a district, but really, literacy is about the real world. And that's what that statement takes us back to.
And really, Becky, you just kind of summed up the very last slide where we talk about, you know, we're not teaching a subject here. We're teaching the foundation of what kids need in their life. And so it is important work that we are doing when in the area of literacy. So I want to thank you for spending some time with Becky, Kim, and I. And I hope that this method of delivering information worked for you. I know this presentation got a little bit long. We had so much that we wanted to make sure that we updated you with that we decided to err on a little bit on the side of giving you a lot. However, moving forward, our next Google Hangouts will be likely more interactive, so we can kind of switch to a mode where you can also give your feedback as we discuss. So we wish you a wonderful start to the school year, and as you are reflecting on any of these slides, we really welcome your questions, your feedback, your conversations, and have a great school year, everyone.